My neighbor kept parking in my driveway saying, "You don't use it enough, so I might as well." When I had her car towed, she screamed, "How dare you!" The next day, she showed up with the tow bill in hand, expecting me to pay it, only to find a new security gate installed. Her face went pale as I smiled. "Good luck parking anywhere near my property again." I've been reading these stories for years, and I always thought the wildest ones had to be fake. Now I know that's not true, because this mess happened to me. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've owned my house for over a decade. It's a small ranch-style place in a quiet neighborhood. Most of my neighbors are older folks or families with kids. It's the kind of place where everyone waves when they pass you, but no one really gets too involved in anyone's business. I like it that way. I work from home, no roommates, no kids, just me and my dog. My life is calm and I like to keep it that way. That changed the day a woman named Sandra moved in next door. Sandra bought the house next to mine about a year and a half ago. She was probably in her early 30s. Loud. Flashy. Always trying to make an impression. She wore a lot of bright-colored outfits, drove a brand-new white BMW SUV, and made sure everyone knew how expensive her bags were. Every time I ran into her, it was like she was performing. It wasn't my thing, but I didn't care. You do you. The first time it happened, I thought it was a mistake. I came home from grabbing groceries, turned onto my driveway, and found her SUV parked right in front of my garage. She hadn't just parked a little on my side. She was fully in my space. At first I thought maybe she was having something delivered and the truck blocked her side. Or maybe there was a visitor. I waited a bit in the street, and when nobody came out, I walked over and knocked on her door. She answered with a huge fake smile like I had just shown up for a coffee date. "Oh hey," she said. "Is there a problem?" "Yeah," I replied, calm and polite. "Your car is in my driveway. I need to pull in." She tilted her head like I was speaking another language. "Oh. Sorry. I just needed a little more space. You weren't using it." "I live here," I said. "That's my driveway. I need to use it." She laughed. Okay. I'll move it. No need to be tense." She made it sound like I was being unreasonable. I didn't say anything. I just walked back to my car and waited for her to move. It was annoying, but I let it go. A few days later, it happened again. This time, I came out in the morning to take my dog to the vet, and saw her car in the same exact spot. So now this wasn't a one-time thing. It was becoming a habit. Again, I went to her door. Same smile. Same fake apology. "I didn't think you'd be going anywhere that early," she said. I stayed polite. "Doesn't matter what time it is. You can't park in someone else's driveway." She nodded like she understood, but the way she looked at me, I could tell she didn't care. Over the next few weeks, it happened again. And again. Sometimes I'd come home and find her parked halfway in. Other times she'd take the whole space. One morning, I even caught her boyfriend's pickup parked behind her car, both vehicles in my driveway. Now I wasn't just annoyed. I was pissed. I left notes. I took pictures. I texted her. I had her number from that first incident when she offered to text me when she moved it. Every time, it was the same excuse. "You weren't using it. I just needed a minute. I had guests. I'll move it soon." Soon turned into hours. Sometimes I had to leave my car in the street and walk around her vehicles just to get to my front door. It got so bad that I started parking sideways at the foot of my driveway just to block her from entering. She texted me to move, claiming I was being childish. Childish? On my own property? After the fifth or sixth time, I was done being polite. I called the non-emergency police line and asked what I could do. The dispatcher said I could have her towed if her car was on my property, but to avoid drama, maybe talk to her first or get an officer to mediate. So that's what I did. I had a local officer come by. He listened to both of us. I showed him photos, text messages, even a printout of my property line. He nodded and told her, firmly but politely, that she couldn't park there without permission. Her response? "I just don't get why it's such a big deal. He doesn't even use it that much." The officer turned to me and said, "Next time you can have it towed." So I made a sign. I printed it in big, bold letters, "Private driveway. Do not park. Vehicles will be towed at owner's expense." I mounted it right at the split in our driveways. Sandra rolled her eyes when she saw it. I watched her from my porch. She made a big show of walking up to the sign, reading it out loud, and laughing. Then she pulled out her phone and filmed herself doing some stupid TikTok-style spin in front of it. Total clown. 2 weeks passed. Things were quiet. No parking incidents. I started to think maybe she finally got the message. Then one morning I woke up, opened the curtains, and there she was. Her SUV. Full dead center in my driveway. Not even trying to stay on the edge. Just parked like it belonged there. I walked outside, took a photo, called the towing company I'd looked up earlier, and told them everything. The truck arrived in less than 30 minutes. The driver was cool. I showed him the photo, the sign, and my deed. He nodded and got to work. Watching that BMW go up on the lift was one of the most satisfying things I'd seen all year. No note. No warning. Just gone. I left for the rest of the day. I wasn't in the mood for confrontation. When I got back? That's when it got real. I was gone most of the day after the tow. Honestly, I needed it. I grabbed lunch, wandered around Home Depot, and even hit up the park just to clear my head. I knew Sandra was going to lose it. I wanted no part of that scene. When I pulled back into the neighborhood later that afternoon, her car was gone, obviously. But her boyfriend's truck was in her driveway, and parked at an awkward angle, like it had been shoved in fast. I parked at the bottom of mine, just in case. I barely got the groceries out of my car before I heard the door slam next door. Here she came. Sandra. Like a storm in heels. She marched across the lawn holding a crumpled paper in one hand and her phone in the other. "You towed my car?" she shouted. I didn't answer right away. I just stood there, watching her stomp up. She shoved the paper in my face. It was the receipt from the towing company. $235. "And you are paying it?" I shook my head. "Nope." Her eyes bulged. "You are out of your mind. You didn't even tell me." "I told you for months," I said. "You don't listen." She was shaking now. "I can't believe you did this to me. You could have knocked." I didn't move. "You were warned." "More than once." She held up her phone like it was evidence in a trial. "I have video of you laughing when they towed it." "That's harassment." I actually smiled. "That's public property. You're welcome to record all you want." She looked like she wanted to hit me. Her boyfriend came out at that point, arms crossed, standing behind her like some backup singer in a drama he didn't understand. He didn't say anything, just stared. Sandra screamed. "You're going to regret this." I shrugged. "We'll see." Then I walked back inside and shut the door. Later that night, I heard someone stomping around near my fence. I turned on the floodlights. No one was there, but the motion detector had clearly been triggered. I didn't sleep well. The next morning, I found fast food trash thrown across my lawn. Burger wrappers, crumpled napkins, half a milkshake dumped by my mailbox. I checked my security cam. Nothing caught. Just a coincidence? Maybe. But 3 days later, a small dent appeared on the side of my car. Passenger side. Nothing major, but enough to make me furious. I hadn't even driven it in 2 days. I checked the footage again, nothing clear, but you could see a shadow walk close to it late at night, and then disappear behind the bushes. I didn't have proof. But I knew. That's when I decided I needed to do more than just react. I called in a contractor. A week later, the front of my property had a brand new motorized steel gate. It went up right at the split in our driveways. I paid extra for a stone base, keypad access, motion-activated lights, and a locking mailbox. The gate was black and tall and said in every way possible, "Stay out." Sandra came out while the crew was working. She was still in a robe, holding a mug like she was in some cheap sitcom. "What is this?" "Private gate," I said. "Since people keep confusing property lines." "You're being petty," she snapped. I turned and smiled. "You said I didn't use the driveway. Guess I'm using it now." She stomped back inside. That same night, my tires were slashed. All 4 of them. Brand new Michelins. Just bought them 2 months before. No cameras caught the act. It was too dark, and my side cameras were blocked by the fence line. I filed a police report. Didn't accuse her by name, but I described everything that had been happening. The officer didn't say much, but he took notes. Gave me a copy of the report. Said he'd file it under ongoing property dispute. Then he told me something that made my blood run cold. "Just be careful," he said. "This kind of thing escalates fast. Especially with prideful people." He wasn't wrong. For a while, things got quiet again. She stopped parking on my side. Obviously, she couldn't. The gate blocked everything. But the trash started again. Little things. Coffee cups. Cigarette butts near the fence. Dog poop bags thrown under my mailbox. One morning I found a single slice of moldy bread stuck to my windshield. It didn't even make sense. Just something creepy and weird. That week, I bought 2 more cameras. One pointed at the street. One above the mailbox. That night I caught her. Full view. Walking out around 11:30 p.m., no shoes on, holding a paper cup. She stopped right at my gate. Looked straight at the camera. And threw the cup over the fence. Like a challenge. Like she wanted me to see it. The next morning, I printed a still shot of her face from the video and taped it to my fence with a note underneath. Smile. You're always on camera now. She didn't say anything for a few days. But then came the real twist. 2 men in polo shirts showed up at my house. Middle-aged, professional. They knocked and introduced themselves as code enforcement officers from the city. Apparently, someone had filed a complaint. About unauthorized fencing, blocking access to shared driveways, and obstructing visibility from the street. I invited them in, showed them the blueprints, permits, and the property lines. Everything was legal. They nodded, agreed everything was fine, apologized for wasting my time. Before leaving, one of them said, "This happens more than you think. Bad neighbors make a full-time job out of petty complaints." So now I knew Sandra was trying to hit back in other ways. Calling the city. Filing false claims. But it backfired. The officers ended up flagging her for leaving her trash bins out too long and for having an overgrown backyard. Small things. But I imagine that stung. Still, I didn't trust her. So I started writing everything down. Dates, times, photos, screenshots, videos, police report numbers, even the names of the contractors I worked with. I put it all in a folder. I backed it up online. I started preparing for something more. Because I could feel it. She wasn't done. Not by a long shot. A week passed without anything new. The trash stopped. No more midnight walk-bys. No new dents. For the first time in months, I thought maybe, just maybe, Sandra had backed off. I was wrong. I came home one Thursday and saw a strange car parked on the edge of my property. Not blocking the gate, but close. Too close. It was an older silver Honda, tinted windows, backed in like whoever drove it wanted a quick exit. I didn't recognize it, but I didn't think much of it at first. People have friends. People visit. But then I saw it again the next day. And the next. Always parked in the same spot, same angle, always when I wasn't home. And always gone by night. So I checked the camera footage. And yeah, whoever it was, they were sitting inside the car. No deliveries. No getting out. Just sitting. Like they were watching. I started making a log. Time, date, car details. Then I asked a cop friend of mine to run the plates. Came back to someone named Maricel Vega. No one in the neighborhood knew her. But guess who she was friends with on Facebook? Sandra. Now this wasn't just pettiness. It felt more like obsession. I didn't confront her. I didn't say a word. Instead, I called a private investigator. Yes, I actually hired one. He was ex-military, calm, quiet, and didn't ask dumb questions. He said he'd do a few drive-bys, check on the car, and dig into Sandra a little. Said he'd keep it low profile. 2 days later, he called me. "She's digging for dirt on you," he said. "What kind of dirt?" He told me Sandra had been asking around at a local bar about me. Telling people I was dangerous. That I had a record. That she was worried for her safety. All of it complete garbage. But the part that pissed me off the most? She told someone at the bar she was trying to get him kicked out of the neighborhood. That's when I knew this wasn't just a parking fight anymore. She was trying to smear me. So I called my lawyer. Told him everything. Showed him the log, the videos, the pictures, the tow bill, the false code complaint, the plate lookup. He told me to keep gathering. He said, "If she keeps escalating, we can file for a restraining order. But don't poke her yet. Let her make the next move." The next move came faster than I expected. I got a letter in the mail. Certified. Inside was a formal complaint to the HOA. Only problem? We don't have an HOA. She actually tried to invent a fake HOA. Used fake letterhead, fake contact numbers, even signed it with a fake title. Neighborhood Standards Enforcement Director. I nearly choked laughing. But it was also disturbing. This woman was fabricating organizations just to threaten me. I contacted the city. Sent them the letter. They confirmed there was no such group. They thanked me for the report, and told me to file it under harassment if anything else came up. Then I did something I hadn't done before. I told the other neighbors. I printed a clean summary of everything that had happened, No opinions, no rants, just facts and photos, and put one in every mailbox on our street. Within 3 hours, I had 6 people at my door. Turns out I wasn't the only one she'd been messing with. She let her dog roam without a leash and it bit a kid 2 doors down. She screamed at a woman over hedge height. She called animal control on a family for leaving their cat outside. She'd even accused one couple of stealing her Amazon packages. Turns out she just forgot to update her shipping address. So now it wasn't just me. It was a street-wide problem. We started a group chat. Sandra, watch. It was dumb, but it worked. Everyone posted if she did anything sketchy. And now there were more eyes on her than she had on me. She didn't like that. A few nights later, I heard tires screeching outside around 1 a.m. I got up and checked my cameras. There she was, Sandra, driving away with her trunk open, a bunch of boxes spilling out. It was weird, rushed. Almost like she was running from something. But by morning, she was still home. Only now there was a new sign in her window. For rent. I laughed too soon. Because 2 days later, the sign changed. Short-term lease available. Perfect for students or professionals. Room for 3 vehicles. 3 vehicles? No. I looked closer. She had posted my driveway in the ad. I stared at the screen in disbelief. This woman, who I had legally shut out with a gate, was advertising my driveway as parking for renters. I made some calls. Posed as an interested renter. Got a copy of the flyer. Took screenshots of the listing online. And then I called my lawyer again. He didn't even wait. He drafted a cease and desist with an attached notice of trespass and sent it overnight by courier. She refused to sign for it. Didn't matter. I had proof she received it. But here's where things took another turn. One of the guys who came to view her house, a random 20-something kid in a beanie, ended up knocking on my door after his showing. "Hey," he said. "You're the guy who owns the place next door, right?" I nodded, cautious. He looked confused. "She said you were her cousin and that you approved the shared parking thing. I thought it was weird. Did she actually say we were related?" I asked. He nodded again. I pulled out my phone and showed him the gate. "She's lying." He scratched his head. "Cool. Thanks for clearing it up. That whole house felt off." Yeah. It was off. But I was done playing defense. I was getting ready to go on the attack. Because Sandra had just crossed into fraud. And I had all the receipts. The fake listing was still up 3 days later. My lawyer sent a follow-up, this time directly to the site hosting the ad, attaching proof of ownership for my property. They took it down within an hour. But it didn't stop there. Someone did rent her place. A couple of grad students. They moved in with a beat-up sedan and a tiny hatchback. Nice enough guys, young, polite. One of them knocked on my door the day after they moved in. "Hey, weird question. Did you say we could park in your driveway?" I sighed. "No." He looked embarrassed. "Okay, yeah, we thought something was off." I handed him a printout of the cease and desist letter. "She doesn't own this space. If you park here, it'll get towed. Nothing personal." He nodded. "Understood. Sorry." They were smart. They kept to themselves. And for a week or so, it was quiet again. Until it wasn't. One night around 9 p.m., I was watching TV when I heard a loud bang against my gate. Like metal being hit. I jumped up and looked through the camera feed. There she was. Sandra. She wasn't alone. Her boyfriend was back, red-faced, screaming at someone. One of the renters was out front, clearly upset. I couldn't hear everything, but I picked up pieces through the audio mic. "You lied to us. This isn't your driveway. You don't talk to me like that." I opened the window just in time to catch Sandra yelling at the top of her lungs. "He's a freak. He has cameras pointed at my house." That was enough. I stepped outside and walked right up to the fence. "You want to talk about me, Sandra?" I said loud and clear. "Say it to my face." She turned, saw me, and froze. The renter stood awkwardly between us, looking like he wanted to disappear. Her boyfriend puffed up his chest and took a step toward my side. "Back up," I told him. "You're trespassing." He muttered something I couldn't hear, but he stepped back. Sandra wasn't yelling now. Just staring. "You've lied to everyone," I said. "You lied about my driveway. You lied about the HOA. You lied to renters. You told people I was your cousin. You even faked legal documents." The grad student looked shocked. "Wait, that HOA complaint wasn't real?" "No," I said. "And the city knows. They have it on file. So does my lawyer." The kid turned to Sandra. Are you serious? She didn't answer. Instead, she did something I didn't expect. She started crying. Not just sniffling, sobbing. Face in her hands, knees shaking, full breakdown mode. It was almost unsettling. Her boyfriend tried to grab her arm. She yanked it away. I was just trying to hold on to the house, she said, voice cracking. I lost my job. I maxed out my cards. I can't even afford the mortgage. I didn't know what else to do. No one said anything. Not me. Not the renters. Not even her boyfriend. She was crumbling right there on the sidewalk, mascara streaking down her face. The boyfriend finally spoke. You told me you were working remote. She shook her head, staring at the pavement. I lied. Is anything you said to me real? He asked. She didn't answer. He turned and walked back to her house. Slammed the door behind him. The grad student gave me a look, somewhere between sympathy and disgust, then quietly walked back inside. And there she stood. In front of my gate. Alone. Crying. I didn't say anything. I just turned and went back into my house. The next day, the for rent sign was gone. By the end of the week, a moving truck was in her driveway. She never said goodbye. Never apologized. Never looked me in the eye again. The renters stayed, thankfully. They took over the lease, and we haven't had any issues since. I got a final email from my lawyer 2 weeks later. Sandra had filed a notice of foreclosure. She'd defaulted on her mortgage. She was gone. The street went quiet again. No more random cars. No more trash. No more screaming. It felt weird. Peaceful, but heavy. I wish I could say I felt triumphant, but I didn't. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel like I won. I felt drained. All that energy, all that stress, all that bitterness, it leaves a mark. Even when you're right. Especially when you're right. Some of the neighbors brought it up here and there. A few said they felt bad for her. One woman said, she must have been under a lot of pressure. Maybe she was. Doesn't change what she did. One guy, old-timer across the street, said it best. Being desperate's one thing. Being cruel while you're desperate? That's different. I still think about that. I kept the gate. People ask if I'll take it down now that she's gone. I tell them no. Not because I'm afraid. But because I earned that gate. It's a reminder that boundaries matter. That kindness doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. That standing up for yourself isn't always loud, but it has to be firm. And if someone ever tells me, you don't use it enough, so I might as well, I'll smile. And I'll press the button that closes the gate in their face.